Good afternoon, world. This is Clarence Johnson with Genderswag Equality TV and Media. I'm okay with me, so I don't mind you. That's Genderswag. For those of you who don't know, Genderswag is a mindset and not another label. La, 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 la. We are a group of unity-conscious people coming together for the greater good on important issues such as suicide prevention, addiction recovery, mental health awareness, transgender support. All of that stuff we kind of throw in the mix, and we use music, art, and literature to get the word out and keep the spotlight shining bright. Okay, this is an episode of Walk That Talk. I haven't done one of these in a while because, well, I've just been plain old busy. But I've been dying to get back and do one of these because there's so much to say by way of spirit. Walk That Talk is about spirit and fellowship and, getting people comfortable with talking to one another and being, just support from all different places, all different perspectives with the common goal of unity. So now that that's out there, what I want to quickly talk about today is, and I'm with Bear. Bear is the mascot for Genderswag. I don't know if you can see his little butt. Let me see. I don't know if you caught him or not, but we do it together. We go to church every day, walk, talk, and pray and meditate. And, today is an easy day to do that because the sun is shining. But I'm telling you, I do it rain or shine because that's life. And we need to make sure that we appreciate the storm and know that we have control over the storm. Me, in the name of Jesus, whatever you profess to claim your stake spiritually, that's your thing. And I want to make sure that you all know that we love you with Genderswag. Today's a beautiful day. It's Saturday in the park, Fort Greene Park in Brooklyn, New York, which is the home location for Genderswag at the moment. And the message for today has to do with endurance and being able to ride out the storm. There's different types of storms, as many storms as there are people. The circumstances are all different, but the same. And that's the thing about unity, is that we all possess our individual free wills. We have our identities and such. But at the end of the day, we are one people. Whether we want to believe that or not, we are definitely one people under the eyes of the Creator, which is really all that matters. I know there's so much division going on in the world in regards to immigration, race, and just as importantly as the other two, religion. I can't stand that word religion. I think that word has really played itself out. It's no different from, different mind control things. I love Christ, but I really do not agree at all with the foundations of the Catholic Church in regards to the history of the bloodshed and all of that stuff that's been allowed to, at the end of the day, create hierarchy and separation. And then, unfortunately, so much abuse has been extended through the Catholic Church that things are really starting to come out in the wash. You can see in the ring cycle all the years of persecution, all the years of elitism, all the years of financial greed, and just things that have given this organization so much power starting to crumble. And that's okay with me because a lot of my brethren, and I don't like labels, and Genderswag is not another label, but people who identify as gay, lesbian, transgender, queer, along those lines, we are condemned by the Bible first, and then persecuted and condemned and ostracized and all of these hateful things by the Catholic Church as part of their doctrine and part of their teachings. And it's been spread out along the religious circuit that we from the gate are a damned people, and people who are damned just by being gay. The thing that I want to get across today is real simple. For me, and I speak my truth first because I can. I was born this way. It was wired in my DNA just the same as it's wired in a heterosexual DNA to be attracted to men. And that's what I stick by. I didn't go out and buy gay socks and, I painted my face for a while because it felt good and I needed to be liberated in that sense. I don't do it anymore because I've gone into other things to express my beliefs and my self-identity and give myself the strength, because I think that what a lot of people don't realize with drag in particular, that it is as much a spiritual thing as it is anything else. No different from my perspective than shamans back in the day and all of that. You are definitely, if you are in the right spirit, when you do paint your face, you're going into self and you're taking yourself into a sacred place where you are shining from the outside in versus the inside out through the miracle of makeup and all of that stuff. And that is my definitive take on a healthy side of drag and doing all that stuff. So for those of you out there who are sticking to the perversion stereotype that you have associated with men and dressing in women's clothing and wearing makeup and all that stuff, you're just showing your lack of evolution. You're not able to process anything other than the kitchen sink and what you've been brought up in. It's a big world out there, and you should be more open to growth. But I understand, because you've been taught that, if you do any of that, you will, of course, be promoting hell and the hellfire that is filled to the brim with LGBT folk, which is bullshit. But anyway, I digress. What the storm means for you is what you are dealing with, what you are trying to overcome in life. And in my case, the storm has been fierce for many years, and I just learned through my true connection with Christ. I've always been connected, but I am now in the pocket and loving my relationship with my Maker to the point of where I understand that as a creature in His image, bestowed with the power of free will and magic and miracles in the name of Christ, I do not have to allow the storm to consume me, wash me away, drown me, crash me on the rocks, and all these horrible things that people end up in when they don't know how to control the storm. First of all, one of the things that I have learned is that the power of the name Jesus Christ for me is enough for me to change the weather and to get the perspective. It's a real awesome thing, and I suggest people who haven't tried it to try it. This is not a conversion conversation. This is a testimony, and I stick by it. But what I want to say is, in addition to that, there are different types of storms. Okay, so one of the storms that's big for me is the storm of rejection from family. Like, if you find yourself in a situation primarily where you are being rejected by your mother, your father, and other blood relatives in the immediate sense, it could be generalized. And I say generalized because cousins and things like that, depending on your physical connection to them, sometimes are not as powerful as the connection of a mom or dad or sister or brother. So if by chance you find yourself in that particular storm, I'm here to testify that you can endure that in a lot of different ways. For me, prayer and perspective go hand in hand, and I've been able to allow myself to be in the flesh with the rejection, because for me, a lot of it stems from a long-term abuse of alcohol, primarily for 30 plus years. I mean, I drank and began that whole thing as a young male in the closet primarily, and really just trying to fit in and my family was like most families out there, anti-gay by how do I say it? Jesus. It's just a culture thing that has permeated over the centuries about gay children and all of that stuff. It's just so horrible how we don't, as gay people, being born into this life, not a lifestyle, because that's another myth that is definitely in need of being squashed. This is not a lifestyle. This is a life that we're referring to. And the elders in my community, which is brown skinned American. We're not black, by the way. That's another myth. I'm breaking a lot of chains this year, and race is a heavy chain with respect to our ancestors of brown skin who were brought over in shackles. But the spirituality of having shackles is still very evident today, and the chains are invisible chains. Things like poverty and drug abuse and addiction and social hierarchies and things of all that. Those are all chains that have been carried over from the boat to the housing communities, into homes of brown-skinned people. And we need to be aware of the spiritual legacy of being owned by oppression and being property of negativity, and it's really something when you think about what has been done to a whole section of people of the same pigmentation, because we're all human and we all share this planet equally, but the pigmentation discrimination known as racism is definitely alive and well. And our young men of all persuasions, culturally, if you're brown skin, you definitely have a lot on your plate to overcome. So I actually created, for motivational purposes for myself, a collection in my new online inspiration store called the Chain Breaker Collection, which features images of me taken during various stages of chains being broken in my life. So 6 years ago, I broke the chain of addiction, and I'm so happy I did that. And I did that in Christ's name. I literally walked into one of the well-known religious institutions, but we'll talk about that later. And I dropped the chain right there and gave it over to Christ, and I have not had one single craving. I have not had one single regret from doing that. And I call myself a minister because my testimonies are real, and I believe in the source of my freedom. And I'm willing to put myself on the line and record stuff for you all to hear in the name of my chain breaker, who is Jesus Christ, and I love him so much. That having been said, I just want to get back to the parental rejection storm. So if you're out there and you're listening to this, and it's difficult for the most part when you're a child and you are living in a household which definitely takes you to a place of rejection the minute you realize that you are born LGBTQ or a same-sex, etc. It's scary because people don't understand that as children, your whole world, your security, your ability to be safe depends on your home, your shelter, the people who are feeding you, who are clothing you, who are paying the bills for you to actually exist. It's a lot of power that parents have, respectfully, over their children. And when that is on the line or questioned by something as being born gay or what have you, it's a tragic thing for most people. It's okay. That's okay. Most people really ignore it on purpose, because parents, at least in my case, I feel as though things are taken onto self inappropriately. And what I mean by that is, you are a parent and you have made a decision on some level to bring another spirit into this world in the flesh. And of course, you are going to take ownership of it because of for the fact that it that spirit was brought through the vessel of flesh, and you got together with someone else and you made that happen. And so that the sad thing about it is that it can be oppressive if the guardians of that child, the parents primarily, are oppressive, and they want that child to reflect negative aspects of their personalities. If they feel embarrassed by the difference of a gay versus hetero kid, they're going to put that oppression and that fear and that shame and all of that negative stuff onto their children's lives. And they're going to spiritually, infect and poison and possibly destroy their own children, because they're unable to deal with the challenges head on and be able to understand that it's a natural occurrence to have a gay child. It's a natural occurrence to be the parent of a LGBTQ kid. You did not have the control that you think you had when you had this baby and the baby turned out to be gay. That's not you that's doing it. You have been taught that that is a choice, that your children at some point in their lives make choices to be gay. And I think that underneath all of this oppression and fear and rage and anger and willful ignorance, there's a truth now that is on the surface, and we're all aware of it, that somewhere along the line, that this kid did not have anything to do with it. You know that. We all know now better than we have ever before that there is more to a person than the flesh, who they sleep with, the flesh, who they, are attracted to, the flesh. There is a spiritual component to men and women of all persuasions, of all colors, that is equally and more powerful than what we are in the flesh. If a child is attracted to the same sex, or whatever the spiritual aspect or component of that person is, that's what it is. It's in that person's spirit. It's born there. It's not something that they cultivated by going to nightclubs. It's not something they cultivated by wearing certain clothing. It's not something they cultivated by watching TV shows of a certain kind or going to movies. And, one of the things the church religion is very skillful at doing is bringing that birth element of a gay child into the flesh right away. And they focus completely on negative aspects of human nature. Whatever that is, I've been made aware of men and boy gay sex clubs being focused in on at church meetings, where they gathered information and footage specifically about that, and streamed it in a video form in their churches to further perpetuate a negative about this type of thing. Very powerful, I like to say, brainwashing that's being done here. As we all know, with respect to parents and the concern for their children being preyed upon sexually, it's right under your noses in all different areas, all different communities. The church is notorious now for the sexual abuse that took place because parents let their guard down with their kids. And, unfortunately, these ministers or pastors, as they're called, were allowed access to sacred, I like to call it sacred real estate, which is children. You do not, under any circumstances, and I'm not a parent, but I can tell you what I know, you don't let your guard down when it comes to that. It's really apparent to me that this is a practice that has left our human children vulnerable to society's depravities. And people don't want to accept their responsibility in that. Parents in particular of these unfortunate victims of sexual abuse. You hear, of course, about the retribution of the victims and what they are seeking and what they're entitled to and what they deserve. And the truth is evident, but there is a responsibility in these situations that's not being discussed. And I think that's just as important as the victim is the parental responsibility in regards to how they were allowed to access the kids at the time. Your parents have to be aware of it. You cannot let Bible thumping dictate to you in this world what is safe and what is, in this case, it's a stereotype that was perpetuated that ministers are sacred people. We are all people in God's eyes, and every man, woman, and child of a certain age is going to be tempted into what's right and what's wrong spiritually, and the flesh follows suit after that. So I want to tell kids out there and children of all ages, because I know from my own personal experience that even though physically I have been allowed by the grace of God to get to 55, in some areas I'm still healing as a child from lack of relationship with my parents, who seriously turned their back on me in my life in particular because of me being out at a basically early age and all of that stuff. And I'm not blaming them for my addiction. I'm simply stating a fact that I know as the addict, that this is a large portion of why I medicated myself, because I was very unhappy. And every child who's lucky enough to grow into adulthood, you can retain that lethal rejection vibe to a point of where you don't allow yourself to heal. And that pain is deep-rooted, it grows, and it makes you vulnerable to all of the depravities that are out there. And I'm saying this to whoever's out there. You could be not 5 years old. Oh, God help us. But they are younger now. I know of suicide victims who have been unable to bear this pain, who have ended their lives as early as 8, 9, 10 years old, etc. But I was going to say, from an early age on to 55 and beyond, there's still people out there who are bleeding out spiritually in pain because of lack of a mother's love, father's love, brother and sister combination thereof. And this message is for you guys to listen to this program and get what you need from it by way of fellowship and important truths that are being told in this element. So I'm signing out now. This is Clarence Johnson with Genderswag Equality TV and Media. I'm okay with me, so don't mind you. if you'd like to be part of my mission, it's easy to do so. There's a GoFundMe account, which is essentially GoFundMe.com hyphen Genderswag hyphen inspiration store workshop. I forget what that is. But you can find us. Our inspiration clothing line is cafepress.com/genderswag, GENDERSWAG. You can also go to genderswag.com and you can get in on what we're doing there, GENDERSWAG.com. You can also send me an email at genderswag, GENDERSWAGYOU@gmail.com if you want to get in touch and talk some more or tell me your story. This video will be posted up shortly at YouTube, and I'm going to start putting it around. So hopefully we can keep the conversation going and lead people to a place of peace and restoration and unity. So that is our goal. Our motto with Genderswag is a very simple one. It's I'm okay with me, so I don't mind you. That's Genderswag. And I love you guys, and hang in there. You are not alone, okay? Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.